All right, welcome back to another lesson. In this one, we're going to be talking about some common web terms. And the objective of this lesson is to help you learn some of the language that you're going to be hearing in this course, but also things that you're going to be hearing people talk about when you're in other rooms of people building websites, or if you desire to hire someone to support you in building your website. These are just some things that are good to know and to understand what folks are talking about. And so I'm going to go through these terms. They'll all be available down below in the right under the video. You can get access to this list. And as terms come up, maybe I say them in a video and someone's like, what does that mean? I will add that term to that list so that we kind of have a rolling list of terms related to the web that I think are just valuable for you to know. So as I've shared in other courses, if you know someone that you think this is going to be valuable for, maybe a friend, family member, or a colleague that is trying to build their own website, please share this with them so they can get the information too. The goal is to empower entrepreneurs, freelancers, consultants to get their freedom back when it comes to building and developing a website. It's not something that you should have to pay an arm and a leg to be able to do. And so this is just an easy way for me to help other entrepreneurs live their dreams and removing one more barrier. So let's jump into the content. If as I'm going through these, you feel like I'm not going fast enough, this is one of the courses that you could jump down into and read the list. And if you feel like you got it, go for it. Or you can dial the speed up to 2x in order to move through the content that much faster. All right, so the first one is domain name, and decided to start with this first because we're going to be talking about how to pick your domain name, and this is just the address of your website. Okay, so when you're out talking to people and someone says go to www dot insert name, right? The thing that they give you, that's the domain name. Now, what's not in here is that your websites will have different endings. So you'll see .com, .co, .edu, .org. All of these are just different endings. And once upon a time ago, a .com was more reputable than a .co, but as time has progressed, they really are starting to signify or give just a brief overview of what that's going to be about, what the website's about. So if you see a .org, you expect it to be some sort of nonprofit organization. If you see .gov, that's a government entity. If you see .com, you expect that to be a business. Versus if you see .tv, you expect it to be some sort of show, right? So these endings, these website endings, are just really trying to communicate, help you understand what that website is going to be about before you even go to the website. Hosting. So this is a service that stores your website files and makes them accessible on the internet. And so when you start talking about building a website online, what you're really doing is like hosting, putting a bunch of files and making them public. And when someone goes to your domain name, what they're saying is, let me access the files that are being hosted by a third party company. Okay. So hosting is something, it's the cost that you will have to pay in order to be on the internet. In some way, shape, or form, every website has to be hosted in order for it to be visible to folks using a domain name to find you. Let me see here. The next one is called CMS or Content Management System. I apologize about the spacing there. So this is just software that helps you create, manage, and modify content on your website without needing a code. The one that we're going to use, the CMS or Content Management System that we're going to use, is WordPress. It is the most versatile, the most flexible content management system, in my opinion. HTML or hypertext markup language. This is a standard language for creating web pages and web applications. It's how you get language onto the web. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about some other languages in this course. I'm not going to teach you a ton about different coding languages. As you start to develop your own websites and trying to do certain stuff, sometimes it is valuable to know. And so I would highly suggest that if you're like, I want to do this for myself and I want to do this for other people, and you really find this engaging, that you spend some time just learning the basics of this language and then the next two that I'm going to share with you. The next one is called CSS, or cascading style sheets. This is a coding language used to change the way things look on your web pages, and that includes your layout, your colors, and your fonts. Okay. This is the second language that I suggest that you spend a little bit of time understanding how it works, because this can help you make web pages that are more attractive and easier to navigate. And then JavaScript, this is a programming language that allows you to create dynamically updating content, uh, animated images, control your multimedia. This is how you can make your website do stuff. Okay. Now, for context, everything that I'm going to show you in this course does not require you understand these coding, that you know how to use these coding languages. It is important that you know that they exist, because even though you don't know how to use them, just know that these coding languages are actually being used kind of in the back end. And we're going to talk, or these coding languages are being used to develop your front end. Okay. And we're going to talk about what a front end is later on. And you just need to know that they exist and what they mean if you hear them. All right. The next one is responsive design. So this is to make sure that you're essentially, what we're saying here when we say we want to make sure the design is responsive, we want to make sure that it looks good on desktop, tablet, or smartphone. We have search engine optimization. So these are techniques used to improve your website visibility on search engines. We have URL, or Uniform Resource Locator. So this is the full web address used to locate a specific page or resource on the internet. Okay. So we think about the domain name is the name of the website. The URL is a specific location. So when you see domain name / about, that is a URL. It is a uniform resource locator. It's the full web address to help someone find the about page for a specific website or a specific set of files being hosted on the internet. Okay. Then you have landing page. So this is a standalone web page designed for a specific marketing purpose or a specific goal. Now, I'm going to digress here for a second um, from this definition to you may also hear people say a landing page is any page that a person lands on when doing like a search or something like that. But when you hear me talk about landing page, this is what I'm actually referring to. I'm referring to a standalone web page designed for a specific purpose, for a specific objective, used to capture leads or share information. Okay. The next one is a wireframe. So this is a basic visual guide used to suggest the layout and placement of elements on a web page. I'm not going to teach you how to create wireframes. I am going to show you one later on, and you'll get access to the wireframe for what you'll see me build. Um, they can be helpful when you finally start to kind of figure out what you want stuff to look like. Um, but what they're really valuable for, especially when you've done this a bit, is so that you can start to build up kind of a visual structure before you jump into the actual designer. Okay. Um, in most situations, we want to have an idea of what we're creating before we try to create. When you're new to this, you won't know. You'll be piecing it together in your mind as you're kind of putting it down on paper, and that's totally okay. Then we have our CTA, or call to action. So this is the instruction that you want your audience to do. You've seen this before: sign up here, register here, learn more, join the group, whatever. You've seen these things before. Now you know what they are. So if you hear somebody say a call to action or CTA, this is what they're talking about. Then we have analytics. So this is your data and statistics about the website's performance. The most popular one is Google Analytics. Just know that this is how you track what's going on your website. Then we have bounce rate. So this is the percentage of viewers who leave your site after only viewing one page. Conversion rate, the percentage of visitors who's completed a desired action. So in most cases, and this is kind of where we deviate a little bit, when you hear people talk about conversion rate, oftentimes what they're referring to is did the person buy or not? The actual definition of a conversion rate is did they take the desired action? Okay. So if I'm on social media and I want people to go to my website, I have a conversion rate between social media and them actually going to my website. Okay. When they get to my website, if I want them to become, if I want them to give me their email to join my group, there is a conversion rate between landing on my website and joining my group. So there are several different conversion rates. You might hear them referred to as different things, but it really is just a conversion rate. Okay. If that confused you, comment somewhere and I will get into conversion rates and why I think it's important to really understand what a conversion rate actually is and not only thinking about it as like, did they buy or not? Okay. Then we have backend. So this is the server side part of the website where your content is managed and stored. Most of what we talk about I will not be talking about backend. I can't think of anything where I'm gonna get into hardcore backend stuff because I don't do a lot with backend management. When when I need something heavy backend done, I have to find someone that I feel confident can do the backend work. This doesn't come up a ton with your website development, but every now and then there's some work that needs to be done in the backend. But for now, I would say don't worry about it, but just know that that is a thing. Then we have our front end. This is the client side part of the website. This is what the user sees and interacts with. So remember I said the HTML, CSS, JavaScript was all being used to develop your front end, whether you're using it or not. The website builder that we're going to use uses those languages in order to create the elements that you're going to drag and drop onto your website. Again, I'm just trying to get you acclimated to some of the language. Then we have an uh, SSL certificate. This is a security protocol that ensures data is transmitted between web servers and browsers is encrypted and secure. Um, when you see this, this is really like a big deal for you, for people to feel safe when logging onto your websites. So you want to make sure that you have an SSL certificate. The tools that I will share with you, I will show you how you can make sure you have an SSL certificate. There are tons of ways. I will say this now, you don't have to pay for them. Once upon a time ago, you did, but you there is no reason to pay for an SSL certificate in today's day and age. So I will share that now. Most of us will not remember what I just said, but if you run across it, don't pay for it. Okay. Then we have plugins. So these are software add-ons that can extend the functionality of a CMS, remember, CMS, content management system, or website. Then we have API, application programming interface. This is a set of tools and protocols for building and interacting with software applications. Basically, what an API is, it allows one tool to talk to another tool, even though there might not already be something designed to help them talk together, right? This is a little more advanced, but I you will see it come up. I was in the website marketing game and I kept seeing this word come up, had no clue what it was, but now you know. Okay. I think it took me like 4 years before I finally was like, what is this? What is this? Okay. Okay. Just kind of a side note here. Then we have UX or user experience. So the overall experience of a person using a website, especially in terms of how easy it is and how pleasant it is to use. You'll also hear user interface. So this is the space where interaction between human and machine occurs. Focus on the look and the feel of the website. These are very similar. They are not the same. Okay. User experience is the totality of the user's interaction. yes, we're specifically talking about the website, but when we think about user experience, it's online, offline. When we think about the user interface, this is what the user sees when they interact with the website or the application. So I don't let these two similarities confuse you. User experience is the totality, online and offline. User interface is what the consumer sees when they interact with the website or application. Okay. Then we have sitemap. This is a file or page that lists off all the pages of a website that you're going to need to create when you're developing your website. We have alt text, or the text used to describe an image or website. This is really important when it comes to your SEO or search engine optimization. It's also really important when it comes to web accessibility, making sure people with any sort of disability understands what's happening on your website. Then we have a hyperlink. So this is a link that'll take you from one web page to another. You see it anytime you see a call to action is oftentimes a hyperlink, right? But it is a specialized hyperlink. Then we have our cache, temporary storage of web documents to reduce server lag and improve load time. So when we think about cache, it's like I have a stack that I've already set aside. So when someone says, "Hey, let me see that," you already have it ready to go. So you don't have to spend as much time looking for it. That's basically what a cache is. Okay? The reason why this is important is because when you're building your websites, one of the ways that you can speed up the website is by having a cache, right? Having a tool that does this caching for you. DNS, domain name system. This is getting a little more technical, but I just want you to know that this is a thing. We'll have to mess around with the DNS. So this is the system that translates this domain name into IP addresses. So when you see a domain name, the domain name is the actual address, right, that you give someone. So if you think about the domain name and say, where I live is 1234 Main Street, that is your address. Interestingly enough, your address can change, right? If you think about it, let's say somebody bought up the block and decided to rip it up and put one building where all the other buildings were. Well, that address of that building would actually change. It would go from being multiple buildings to one building. So it would have to change, right? But there's a location associated with that address, a latitude, longitude that would never change, right? That point on the earth is always that point on the earth. The IP address is very much like that latitude, longitude. No matter how many times you change the domain name, right? We can decide that we want it to be www.popcorn.com and then change it to www.cornpop.com. The domain name has changed, the street address has changed, but the IP address will not. Okay? The IP address is like the permanent location for those files. Again, I don't want to get hyper technical here, but I just want you to understand that, like, if we're being hyper technical here, so if somebody knew the IP address for a website, they could find it without the domain name. So the domain name is just the street address. Okay. Then we have our breadcrumbs. This is a navigation aid, so that it's easy for people to jump back and forth inside of a website. If you've ever been on a website and you click something and it's showing you how you got there, those are breadcrumbs. You have a favicon, so this is the small icon that represents a website. If you look up in your browser right now, if you have tabs open to the left hand side of your tab, you'll probably see like a small colored icon. That is your favicon. Okay. And we'll get into that more when we actually start building the websites. I'll show you how to add and upload a favicon. The viewport, this is the visible area of a web page on a device. And this is important when we start talking about like how do we make a design critical or a design responsive. Um, I probably will not refer to viewport very often, but it's a word that you may find somewhere. We're almost done, I promise. And then cookies. So there's a small piece of data stored on the user's device by the website to remember information by the user. Okay, this is important because there's a lot of functionality that comes from having cookies. So if you have a way for a user to log into a website, let's say you have a membership, the reason why they don't have to log in every single time they come back to your website is because of cookies. So it helps make things easier, right? If you've ever like watched part of a YouTube video, left and came back and it started right where you left off, that's because of stuff like cookies. Okay. So we're getting to a place in history where we're seeing a lot of folks not want cookies, but what a lot of people don't realize is that like cookies are the reason why the web has become progressively easier to use because it can remember what you were doing and kind of help you pick up where you left off. Now, the drawback is that cookies are also what we use to help follow people around when we're doing any type of marketing. Okay. So just know what it is. It's a bit of data stored onto a user's device to help remember and kind of follow that user around. Okay. So that is the end of your terminology. If you want this document and to see these terms, down below you'll find them. You can grab a copy of that Excel sheet. I will tell you now, if you make your own copy, as if I update it or make any changes, you will not get a copy of that update. You are welcome to a copy, but if you have your own copy, it will not update when if I go in and do any updates. Again, if you found something in here helpful, please make sure you share this to a friend, family member, colleague, anyone that you know could benefit from this course. Please share it with them. The goal is to get this information into the hands of the people that need it so they can feel empowered to start their own websites and grow their businesses. That's all I got for you. Stay here, one of y'all.